So we have to talk about what's happening up at Balmoral, because if these recent reports are true, the king is about to do something that never been done before. King Charles has personally extended what many are calling an enormous gesture by inviting Harry and Meghan to his private Scottish sanctuary this summer. Now I want you to think about the stakes here for a second. If this report is true, the monarchy as we know it is over because the private sanctuary is being breached. This isn't just about a holiday, it's about the very heart of the royal inner circle. But stick with me until the very end, because the most shocking piece of evidence, the one about a Highgrove reset, is something I'm revealing in the final minutes of this video. Honestly, I think Charles' motivation is deeply personal. He's 77 now and navigating a continued battle with cancer. When you're facing something like that, family reconciliation starts to feel a whole lot more important than rigid royal protocol. He reportedly prioritizing his heart over the rulebook because, as he sees it, family takes precedence over the cold requirements of protocol. But wait, it gets even more mysterious. While the king is looking for peace, Prince William is reportedly vehemently opposed to this whole plan. He's not just uncomfortable, he's digging his heels in because he fears welcoming them back is too much too soon. My heart just breaks for them, seeing this family so divided when time is such a finite resource. Can you imagine the tension behind those palace walls right now? You won't believe what some insiders are saying about how William feels regarding his brother's potential return to the intimate inner circle. Peace be upon you. I am the Crown Insider. I'm so glad you've pulled up a chair to join me for this talk today. If you value these deep dives, please do hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps our little community grow and stay connected. It's just so important that we look at the why behind these royal moves, isn't it? Now, while that's shocking enough, what I found next about William's resistance really paints a picture of a house divided. Would you have done the same in Charles' shoes and invited them back? Now, while that invitation to Scotland is shocking enough, what I found next about the king mindset really shows how much things have changed behind those palace walls. You see, even with all the pushback from the family, Charles appears to be staying absolutely resolute. It's quite something when you think about it. A monarch standing his ground not over a piece of legislation, but over his own son. This offer to open the gates of Balmoral is what experts are calling an enormous gesture. As royal expert Rob Shooter put it, King Charles III is quietly considering a dramatic and deeply personal move to mend his fractured relationship with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, opening the gates of his most private sanctuary, Balmoral Castle. I have to say, that phrase, most private sanctuary, says it all. This isn't just about a room in a hotel, it's a signal of trust, forgiveness, and what seems to be a genuine desire to finally heal those old wounds. The International Business Times is even describing this as a final bid for family unity. But it doesn't stop with the politics of the crown. When you peel back the royal layers, you find a grandfather who hasn't spent any meaningful time with his grandkids, Archie and Lilibet, in nearly 4 years. Can you imagine? At 77, and after everything he'd been through with his health, that a heavy emotional weight for any man to carry. There's more to the story when you look at the actual timing of this invite. It's not just a random summer weekend, everything seems to be lining up with Harry's upcoming work for the Invictus Games, making this the perfect window for what people are calling a Balmoral summit. He's prioritizing those family bonds over formal protocol or what the public might think, acting as a father rather than just fulfilling royal duties. My heart just breaks for him, caught between his duty to the throne and his love for his wayward son. If you were in Charles's shoes right now, would you prioritize your role as a king or your role as a father? Now, while that grandfatherly hope of Charles is just so touching, what I found next about William's reaction really shows the deep cracks in this family foundation. It reported that the Prince of Wales is viewing this entire Balmoral plan with profound unease. You have to remember that at 43, William has become a staunch defender of the institution. It seems to me he's the one who had to pick up the pieces after all those public critiques in the Netflix series and that memoir, Spare. For him, this isn't just about a family dinner, it's about protecting the throne he will one day inherit. Sources are claiming he is strongly opposed to the whole idea. He reportedly feels that welcoming Harry and Meghan back into such an intimate private fold is just too much too soon. Can you imagine how awkward those hallways would be? But here is where it gets really strange. It's not just a little disagreement over guest lists. William apparently sees this as rewarding a massive betrayal. He worried that letting them back in sends a message that disloyalty actually pays off in the end. My heart just breaks for them because the human cost here is just so high. We're talking about trust that had been completely shattered between two brothers who used to share everything. According to royal expert Robert Jobson, there is simply no trust between the brothers. He even told Hello magazine William is building a future and he no longer needs Harry's drama. But wait, things get even more complicated when you think about the actual logistics of a royal summer. To William, Balmoral has always been a place of healing and reflection for those who stayed. To see it opened up now to those who walked away feels to him like reopening wounds that have barely begun to close. It reportedly reached a point where William may refuse to even participate in any family barbecues or shooting parties if his brother is there. He's drawing a very hard line in the sand. Do you think William is right to protect his peace, or should he follow his father's lead and try to forgive? But it doesn't stop with William drawing a line in the sand. No, there is a clock ticking in the background that makes this summer absolutely critical. You see, the 2027 Invictus Games are set for Birmingham, and because of that, Prince Harry is reportedly expected to be a much more frequent visitor to British soil. You might not realize this, but that changes everything. Now, while Harry has been making these solo trips, the chatter is that Meghan is anticipated to join him this July for a special one-year countdown event. This is huge, allegedly her first time stepping foot in the UK since the late Queen's funeral back in 2022. This July visit provides what insiders are calling the perfect window for a Balmoral summit. As the Express reported, it is rumored that King Charles and Queen Camilla may thaw the current icy relations by finally extending this olive branch. Can you imagine? After years of what's been described as a Cold War, the king is reportedly ready to try again. But wait, here's where it gets interesting when you look back at their track record. My heart just breaks for the family because, back in 2022, Harry and Meghan famously declined the late Queen's invitation to join the family in Scotland. It was such a missed opportunity for healing. This time, Charles is allegedly determined to overwrite those painful memories with new ones. Now, while that's shocking enough, what I found next really makes you wonder about the pressure they are under. You won't believe what the Daily Mail just uncovered about the last time Harry was at Balmoral. It was that heartbreaking day in September when he arrived at the castle just minutes after his grandmother had passed. Reportedly, there had been a major dispute over Meghan's attendance that very day. It's just so heavy, isn't it? Charles has seemingly cleared the path for this high-stakes invitation after a private tea with Harry last September. He's looking at a quiet week in the Highlands with a heavy emotional weight because he hasn't seen those grandkids in nearly 4 years. If you were Meghan, would you be able to put the past aside and accept this invitation for the sake of the children? But it doesn't stop with that heartbreaking history, because to really understand why this invitation is such a massive deal, we have to look at what Balmoral actually represents to the Windsors. You see, there's a bit of royal protocol here that most people don't realize. Unlike Buckingham Palace or even Windsor Castle, which belong to the Crown, Balmoral is personally owned by the monarch. It's their private home, bought all the way back in 1852 by Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, specifically for intimate family time away from public scrutiny. I couldn't help thinking, this means the king has total, absolute control over who walks through those gates. There are no government officials or public tours to worry about when the family is there. So when Charles reportedly decides to open those doors to Harry and Meghan, he's not just inviting them for a visit, he is signaling to the world that he wants them back in the most intimate inner circle. It's a level of trust that goes way beyond a quick tea in London. My heart just breaks for the security teams who have to coordinate all this, but for the king, the personal stakes clearly outweigh the logistics. But here's where it gets really strange. The atmosphere at Balmoral is supposed to be about healing and reflection for those who stayed, which is exactly why William is reportedly so unsettled by the whole thing. He sees it as their most cherished residence being open to those who publicly stepped back. It gets even trickier when you realize that the protocol for Charles' other home, Highgrove, is actually very different. And that is exactly where my theory starts to take shape. You won't believe how the rules change when they move from the Highlands down to Gloucestershire. According to reports, Balmoral signals trust, forgiveness, and a genuine desire to heal because of its deep private history. It is one of the last places on earth where they can truly be just a father and a son rather than a king and a duke. If you owned a private family sanctuary that had been passed down for generations, would you be able to open its doors to someone who had publicly critiqued your family? Now, while that private sanctuary talk is shocking enough, What I found next about the Cold War and the future of the Sussex brand is where things get really complicated. You see, if Harry and Meghan actually accept this invitation and are welcomed back into the fold, it completely flips their victim narrative on its head. Let me be honest, if they are seen at family barbecues, they can no longer argue they've been frozen out. It's a huge risk for them. The International Business Times suggests that this kingly gesture could actually reshape their entire Montecito empire, forcing a pivot from grievance to something resembling maturity. Can you imagine the pressure they're under? For years, they've built their brand as US-based victims of a supposedly mean, racist royal institution. But if the king is opening his doors, will they have a sob story worth flogging anymore? Their multi-million-pound fortune, built on those massive deals with Netflix and Spotify, now faces major scrutiny because it seems the world is losing interest without fresh royal drama. It's reported that their narrative is losing steam. But wait, there's a twist when you look at why they left in the first place. Harry famously compared his royal life to a mixture between The Truman Show and being in a zoo. He claimed he wanted privacy and to build a ring of steel around his family. Yet, if they go back to Balmoral, they're stepping right back into the very institution they said was so toxic. My heart just breaks for the confusion this must cause their little ones moving between two worlds that are so at odds with each other. This is where things take an unexpected turn when you look at what Meghan reportedly thinks about the women left behind in the palace. According to some insiders, there are fears that this is all a test of their loyalty. If they show up and things go well, the brand they spent years building in California might just crumble. They've allegedly spent years building a ring of steel while amassing their multi-million-pound fortune, and this invite could dismantle it all. Do you think Harry and Meghan actually want to be back in the fold for family reasons, or is this about saving their brand? Now, while that branding crisis for the Sussexes is shocking enough, what I found next about a possible alternative to the Highlands is what some are calling the ultimate royal reset. You see, it doesn't stop with a visit to Scotland. Reports are emerging that King Charles may also offer Harry and Meghan the use of his beloved Gloucestershire country estate, Highgrove House. If I'm being honest, this is a huge deal because Highgrove is where William and Harry actually grew up holidaying. It reportedly being seen as the perfect neutral ground for tentative family barbecues and playdates, tucked away from London's glare. The real heart of this plan, allegedly, is letting the Sussex children finally bond with their cousins George, Charlotte, and Louis. My heart just breaks for those kids who have missed out on so much family history. Can you imagine them all playing together in the same gardens their fathers did? This kingly gesture, offering both Highgrove House and a welcome visit to Balmoral Dewey, is a massive olive branch that could potentially end the Cold War for good. But here is the most shocking part. Some say this invitation is actually a major test. You won't believe what some insiders are whispering about the king's true intentions. By rolling out the royal red carpet, Charles is effectively removing their ability to claim they've been frozen out. If they accept, they can't play the victim anymore. If they refuse, they look like the ones holding on to the bitterness. It is a brilliantly carefully calibrated olive branch designed to show the door to reconciliation is open, but only if they are willing to walk through it. As the International Business Times noted, without the ability to position their brand as US-based victims of a supposedly mean, racist royal institution, will they have a sob story worth flogging anymore? It's a high-stakes move that could reshape their Montecito empire forever. Now, while that neutral ground at Highgrove sounds like a dream come true for a fractured family, what I found next about the king's final gambit reveals the true emotional weight of this entire saga. Do you think a summer at Highgrove is enough to heal years of public bitterness? Now, while that neutral ground at Highgrove sounds like a dream come true for a fractured family, what I found next about the king's final gambit reveals the true emotional weight of this entire saga. You see, I've been thinking a lot about why Charles is choosing to, as some critics put it, cave in right now. Between you and me, I don't think this is about weakness at all. My theory is that this isn't just about simple forgiveness. It's a father decision to secure his legacy before it's too late. When you're 77 and navigating the road he's on, you start looking at the finish line. He reportedly wants to ensure that his reign isn't remembered for a family feud, but for a final act of grace. The story doesn't end there when you consider the real human cost here. We're looking at a situation where trust is shattered between brothers who once shared everything. This might literally be the last chance to fix it before the cement hardens forever. As the International Business Times reported, Charles is now seemingly determined to overwrite those painful memories with new ones. He wants to replace the image of Harry arriving at Balmoral minutes after the Queen passed in 2022 with a new image, one of grandkids running on the lawn. It's at this point that things become complicated. If Charles succeeds, he changes the narrative of the monarchy itself. He is sending a message that when time is a finite resource, family takes precedence over the cold requirements of protocol. It's a bold move, almost a final bid for family unity. My heart just breaks for them because even with the King's blessing, the road to a real reunion is still so long. Charles is seemingly betting everything on the hope that the Highland heir can do what lawyers and publicists couldn't. He's choosing to be a dad first and a king second. And honestly, can we really blame him for that? He's trying to build a bridge over a canyon of bitterness and drama. It's the ultimate gamble for a man who just wants his family whole again. Do you think William should forgive Harry for the sake of their father, or is he right to stay away?